about the situation here involving that temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that could begin tomorrow after the agreement between the two sides was reached hours ago. I want to bring in Eylon Levy, an Israeli government spokesperson, joining us live to talk more about the current situation. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you, Josh.
First off, can you kind of break down the terms of this agreement and what you can say about this, but also when everything is expected to really take effect?
It's been nearly 50 days now that our 240 hostages have been held in the Gaza Strip by Hamas. And last night, the Israeli government approved a prospective deal in order to get the first batch of them out. Under the deal, we're going to get 50 hostages out. Those are going to be women and children. In exchange for that, we will be releasing a number of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails, many of them with blood on their hands, not convicted of murder, but definitely of attempted murder, including some people who brutally stabbed civilians and police officers. We're hoping to get those hostages out in tranches of over 10 people each day, in exchange for a 4-day temporary pause in the fighting. Now, when those 4 days are up, the ball is going to be in Hamas's court. For every 10 hostages that it releases to Israel, we will give it another 1-day pause in the fighting. And when this ends, we will pick up our campaign to destroy Hamas and Islamic Jihad's governing and military infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. In response to the October 7th massacre, we saw nearly 50 days ago what they can do, and we're determined to make sure that that never, ever happen again.
Is it clear which of these 240 hostages are going to be released in this deal? I don't know if the government knows specifically and has released any sort of list, if they're keeping it close to the vest. What can you tell me about that?
We're beginning with the women and the children. There are over 30 children in Hamas captivity at the moment, including a 10-month-old baby. There's a 3-year-old girl in there. Her name is Avigail Idan. I can't stop thinking about her because she was orphaned. Hamas murdered her mother, murdered her father in front of her, and then abducted her into the Gaza Strip, and she's been there for nearly 50 days. Who's feeding her? Who's holding her? Who's talking to her? Who's playing with her? Has she even seen sunlight in 50 days? These are children who are going to be coming back to Israel deeply traumatized. Israeli society is about to go through some very, very difficult and painful and emotional days when we see those children coming back. You know, as we face the question, what kind of sick monsters do this? What possible reason was there for Hamas death squads to abduct children, little children, on October 7th? So we're bringing them home. But I want to emphasize, we will not rest until we bring everyone home. There will be no one left behind. The lives of the men there are worth no less than that of the women and children, and we will not rest until we bring everyone back. We see that is our moral obligation, both as a state, but also in line with the deepest Jewish ethics as well, to redeem captives and bring back people who are held in captivity.
There's been a lot of focus on the situation that's going on in Gaza amid the fighting here, as we are now 6 weeks into the war, getting close to 7 weeks. Do you think enough attention is being paid to what you were talking about, October 7th, during a holiday, as Hamas did attack, killed 1,200 people, and took all of these hostages?
I can tell you that for Israelis, the date is still October 7th. We are still living in that moment. As long as we have hostages in Gaza, as long as we have body bags of unidentifiable human remains, as long as we're still finding bodies of people who were previously presumed missing, Israeli society is still stuck in October 7th. You know, this was our 9/11, this was our Pearl Harbor. Sometimes watching news coverage talking about the situation in Gaza without that essential context can be really jarring. We're in this situation because Hamas declared war on us. It declared war on us with the deadliest terror attack in world history after 9/11. It declared war on us with the most brutal, deadliest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. These were crimes against humanity that shocked the whole world on October 7th. And it's important to remember exactly why we are fighting and why we have to fight to the end. This war has to end with the end of Hamas, or it will do the same all over again, and we'll find ourselves trapped in the same cycle of violence. That will be the consequence if Israel doesn't finish the job this time.
My last question here before I let you go. I want to get the government's take on this because I know that a little less than a week ago, the Palestinian Authority said that some report out there had showed that Israel actually attacked itself on October 7th. Netanyahu came out and said that is, quote, utterly preposterous. I want to get your thoughts on that as that news is circulating, and there are some people out there that hear it and actually believe it.
Yeah, this is truly outrageous. For the last few weeks, we've been witnessing a Holocaust denial-like phenomenon unfolding in real time as people deny the atrocities on October 7th, the atrocities that Hamas filmed on its own GoPros and proudly shared with the whole world to glorify that violence. People are denying it. Now, it's not surprising that the president of the Palestinian Authority, a man with a doctorate in Holocaust denial, would go full 9/11 truther on the facts of the October 7th massacre. But I think that tells you just how horrific that massacre was, that even people who have proudly stood shoulder to shoulder with terrorists in the past and justified violence against Israeli civilians can't bring themselves to openly condone that violence because it was just so horrific. And so they have to project and make up 9/11 truther-style conspiracies about what happened. It's disgusting. The world must not stand for it. And everyone must be clear about the truth and the reality of the brutal massacre that Hamas perpetrated on October 7th.
Eylon, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and provide that breakdown. We appreciate it.